I'm reading from Deuteronomy chapter 34. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho. This is the mountains of Moab. This is the Dead Sea. Jericho is about 50 miles north of us, and Mount Nebo would be there on what is now the Jordanian side, or in the biblical days on the side of the nation of Moab. God brought him up there and showed him all of the land of Israel, and it's an amazing vantage point. From the city of Jerusalem on a clear day, from certain places, you can see all the way into Jordan, you can see Mount Nebo. So the places that are going to be mentioned here in Deuteronomy chapter 34, these are places that Moses could literally see the scope of the land of Israel. He went up to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho, and the Lord showed him all the land, Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah. So as he looked west, he saw Judah, he saw Jerusalem, the area, the hills of Jerusalem, as far as the western sea, the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, that's the desert south of us, and you can see here this area of the desert. By the way, we're on top of, not on top of Mount Nebo, we're on top of Masada. Masada doesn't have biblical reference, but Masada was the place where the Zealots held out against the Romans in 70 AD after Jerusalem was destroyed. A group of Zealots came up here to Masada and had a last stand against the Romans. The Romans built a siege work and a ramp, and eventually, just before they were going to conquer the fortress of Masada, the Jews that remained here killed themselves and even their wives and children. 4 or 5, I forget the number, women escaped and told their story to Josephus, who recorded it as part of the history of Israel. And this place is a very special place, very special significance for Jews today, because it symbolizes the strength of the nation of Israel and their desire that the things that have happened in the past, that they would never be destroyed again. We believe that the land of Israel is special to the Lord. We read it right here. The Lord said to him, "This is the land which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give it to your offspring. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there." It says Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab according to the word of the Lord. Moab, because of his sin against the Lord and in presuming against God, presuming to know the will of God, striking the rock rather than speaking to the rock, not holding God holy in the sight of the people. Moses didn't have the experience to enter into the land, but he saw it. And he was able, through the prophetic word, to tell the Israelites and even us today that this land is special to God. You can't help but think as you're here, as you think about the history of the modern-day nation of Israel, rising from ashes, rising from obliteration in 70 AD, rising and continuing after generations of persecution, after the Holocaust, after all of the opposition against the land of Israel, to be a nation today is absolutely miraculous and has no explanation outside of the plan and the will of God. And so the modern nation of Israel, the things that are happening in the world today, the emphasis on things happening here and the hatred of so many people against Israel is a sure sign of the truthfulness of God's word. The spiritual conflict in the world today is evident as we see this conflict coming together so often against Israel. And here we are on top of Masada, being able to see all of that and looking out over the land, looking out over the Dead Sea, over Moab, which is now modern-day Jordan, over these areas which many of them now belong to Israel, but one day will belong to an Israel that is restored spiritually when King Jesus rules and reigns on his throne.